So good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me here. I flew in last night from San Francisco and just happy to see so many faces here today morning. So I just want to know, I'm excited as well, and let's get right in. So today's topic is about product management framework for building successful products. So a lot of times when we think about product management, people who have grown through the rungs of being either technologists, analysts, program managers, and whatnot, they get fixated to what they have seen in past and how to improve the status quo versus totally forgetting what is needed for innovation. So what I'm trying to say here is, when you try to think about a product or a successful product management, you have to start unlearning a lot of things which you have learned in the past, and then think about an innovative product mindset and be successful in that role. So we'll go through that journey today. Let's get started. So how it's going to look like, we'll start with product thinking, quickly jump into a product manager's mindset, how do you kind of balance it out. Then we dive deep into product management framework with IoT as our initial starting point. It's very complex, so we'll try to get that to start with. We'll talk about the salient points of it, how you can build some pieces of product management, and then go quickly through some monetization strategy, technology strategy, and metrics. And then we'll take quick Q&A. Sounds fair? Cool. Let's jump right into it. Product-focused thinking. What is a product-focused thinking? So when I started in this role, I met a lot of people who came from a very solid technical, solid project management background. And when I started bringing ideas, which I've seen in the field, what actually sticks, it needed a lot of what we say is change in their current mindset, or just a total revamp of what currently exists. It becomes really hard for very strong project managers or technologists who have kind of seen a certain way, a certain thing, and the success, how their company has defined in the past, and they get fixated to that. And so what I'm trying to say today is, when you think about product or becoming successful in future, and think about innovation in that future, you have to first unlearn what you already know. What you already know will become a raw material in a bigger scheme of things. And then, so you first design a nice product, and then your experience becomes just a little bit of raw material, which becomes a cherry on the top. Now you would say, hey, Aditya, you talked about, hey, forgetting what I know, then what should I think and learn about, right? And that's where I give you a formula or a mindset, which we picked today, is think from a customer-centric point of view. So that's why what I call today is product-focused thinking is as good as putting customer at the center. So when you put customer at the center, that's when you go from being employed to your company or your manager or your firm to an outsider, and you think how your company and your products and services are perceived by that customer. And then you kind of start improving on that, and then you bring backwards, and then you work backwards from that. What do I mean by that is, as a product manager, you are holding the baton of what your customer's voice is or what your customer would want. Tell that, articulate that very clearly in your company, and be the voice of the customer inside your company. And then take creative products or experiences to make sure your customers are getting what they deserve, what they want. And that's how you take your first product-focused, customer as a center as your journey. Right, so let's talk about how do you kind of start moving the needle towards that thinking. You always think about customer first versus revenue or profit. then you might come to me and say, hey, if we think about revenue and profit later, how do we kind of make sense of starting a business, right? That's where the second or third concept comes into your mind is all the design. When you think about a product, if you keep your designer or your customer at the center of the focus, you will end up making the most wonderful product which a customer would want no matter what. And at that point, they would be ready to pay a fair value. So in Silicon Valley, we have a concept called value creation. So whenever you're working with a customer focus in mind, you always try to think about creating tangible, usable customer value. Now, customer value could be in terms of saving time, saving them money, or enabling them to create money, enabling them to do things which they were not able to do without your product or service. So that, in essence, is creating value. To give you an example, any kind of SaaS service today tries to bring that to the life, right? A productivity tool, if they are charging you $10 a month, they're trying to say, hey, I have probably created or given you back enough time in your day, which should be worth at least $100 a month. Can I get $10 a month out of that? And when you have a product which kind of thinks and breeds productivity in a customer sense, that will not just be adopted, but your customer would be more than willing to pay for that product as well. And so that's what we are saying. Revenue is generated through value creation. These products, they create reasonable and fair market value share, and the share can be divided between the value creator, that's you, and the value consumer, that's your customer. So that's how the product mindset, you should start thinking in terms of that. So I go deep into a workshop tomorrow what I'm conducting, so I'll leave this at that. What is the benefit of customer-centric product? Now today with internet, social media, and a lot of the blogs and forums and whatnot, your customer is a lot more powerful than it was even 5 years ago, and they're getting more and more powerful every day. Any good news, that spreads fast. Any bad news, it burns like a wildfire in a forest. So you need to balance and negate both of that. You have to understand the importance of positive and negative comments from your customer. We have entered an era where people care more about your references, your experiences, which you get in association versus just a brand name. Another concept which we talk about a whole lot is the modern day consumer has moved from buying an experience versus buying a brand in the past. So in past you were more connected to bigger brands, but it is about bigger experiences nowadays. So that's why it is very necessary to focus on a consumer, and that's how you can start thinking of product first and not the implementation. Moving on. Oops. Now this is a busy slide. It talks about, hey, we were talking about just like product thinking, right? So what would you exactly mean by product thinking? What should be going inside a product manager's brain on a daily basis as he kind of goes through this product design in his mind? What kind of capabilities or what kind of thought processes are we looking at in an ideal product manager? So a product manager is a stellar communicator. He can sit, he can verbally write, talk, present in a very logical, data-driven, and a sensible manner, number one. Number two, he's a star negotiator. He can negotiate his product, his vision through everybody. He's not only responsible for creating a vision, but taking it to the fruition after that. So that's why Communication stands at top, and it should hold 40% of your product manager's brain. And that's why they have a great commander for the thing they're presenting, articulating every inch of detail, or even just a vision, and drive the team or even their executives with them to the next level. Second is a business acumen. If a product manager is not innovative enough, if he's not able to find the gaps in the market, the pain points of their customer, the opportunities in the market, it's a failure. A very sharp business person would be able to find out, hey, what's missing in the market? What are the different segments who need different things and they're not served by current product today? Let's figure it out and find the right value proposition for both the parties. And that's why they need business acumen. The third thing is what I call great designer or experienced designer. Every product manager, they are not just a numbers person, right? Hey, I buy a stuff for 10 bucks, can I sell it for 50, right? They need to bring innovative products which has human empathy element. What do I mean by that is, if a product is really useful but doesn't click, doesn't have the right design, it's very clunky, it's hard to use, there's a high customer time to learn, guess what? Your customers will drop out. If your product manager is not able to really vision every step and inch of how their product is used and designed to perfection, their product will not be a success. So he needs to be a designer. He needs to bring human empathy, a customer empathy to the table while he's designing his product. So that's very important. Next is what I call engineer or a technical expert. Is no matter what, you have to get a very solid product out in the market. So he needs to understand how different things tie together, how he can bring a very complex concept or a product or service to the market. So he needs to understand a lot of that terminology, work with engineers, work with different stakeholders inside the company to make this execution possible. Cool, let's move on. I wanted to spend some time showing why communication is important for product managers. And here's why. A product manager is a true CEO of their own product in every firm. Whether it be a small firm, where a lot of the product vision is driven by the CEO itself, and then at bigger firm, it is product manager who is the CEO of every product, who kind of thinks about the roadmap, the feature, the segment, and everything. Now, their responsibility becomes really high because they are not only responsible for thinking about this vision, but they need to get their buy-in from everybody in their company. If you see what we have on the right-hand side here, you will see they're talking to executives, marketing, and design, legal, etc., at many different stages. So let me quickly touch on some of these aspects of it, right? So first of all, as a business leader, product manager needs to create a business plan, right? Articulate what he's going to build, why he's going to build, who's going to use it, what's the benefit to the company and the customer, and how does it kind of align with the overall strategy of the firm. So when he creates this business plan, he goes to his executives to get the funding, get the people, get the time to make sure that one, executives make sense of it, and they are behind his vision to allow him this money, this number of time and resources. And same is true for a CEO at a startup. That hey, he's creating this vision, he's showing that his MVP, his smaller product works, and that's how he kind of raises funds, hire people, and gets everybody on the journey with him. Right? So it starts with a lot of executive level communication. Then it slowly moves down to actually designing every bit of frame fit, and minute details of the product. What they're doing at this time, they're talking to marketing to understand what segment they should target, what type of people they should target, what communication messages, what features should be highlighted in these marketing materials we have out there. They're talking to finance to make sure they're getting enough funding, they are making their numbers make sense. The pricing, the monetization strategy, which we're going to talk a little later, that makes sense. And all of that kind of flows into accounting and legal. Are we compliant with the data and all the security laws we have around it? So they are talking to these type of people on a daily basis to make sure that they are designing their product for execution really well. Moving on to final execution and deployment stage, a product manager needs to work with engineers, developers, analysts, UX designers, come up with a roadmap of execution plan, whether it's a 3 month, 6 month, or a year. How long an effort it's going to take to make sure that what he wants to design gets out in the market. So that's where the execution takes place. So to summarize, a product manager needs to communicate with executives to start a business plan, talk to middle layer management to flesh out the details of exactly how the product is going to look like, and then he's going to talk to all the executionists to make this product a success when it's out there. Oops. Okay. So let's quickly touch on a PM framework, how it kind of looks like today. This is mostly what I call different aspects of a product, which is an IoT product, if you would see. And I'm in the IoT space in the Alexa team. So we kind of go through the stack and kind of define decision areas on the left. So this slide one shows like 5 different areas where the decision needs to be made by a product manager. On the left side, it shows about 6 areas, or broad areas, where an IoT product manager needs to make a decision. In this room, I know like not everybody's making an IoT product, but this is kind of like compassive of if you're making a software website or any other thing for that matter. Without going too deep into it, I would say when a PM is thinking about a problem, he needs to think all these decision areas on the left. So UX data, business, tech, security, and regulation. And on the right, it shows the entire areas, different areas of tech you need to. A lot of times, if it is only a software implementation, you just need to worry about software and middle layer, and then the back end, or front end, middle application layer, and the back end. So depending on what product you're building, you can customize this. But I wanted to bring this kind of framework to show you, hey, in each of this area, there are 6 or 7 decision area on the left, which you're seeing right here. And you need to, as a PM, you need to be exhaustive across this framework for a successful product. Now, when you start your PM journey or start a product design, this initial stake in the ground would help you to get started. A lot of times, what I just showed you in the previous slide, that can get overwhelming. Hey, where do I start? How do I kind of think about this innovative product which I want to build? The way I say it is, hey, think about a cool name first, because guess what? That's what you're selling. You know, I'm pretty sure Uber, Lyft, and all that, they were sitting in their room and they had all this grand idea about making a cab service. But finding your name becomes really important. So one, when I think about picking a name for a product or project, I think about if it is relevant. Like as soon as somebody hears that name, they're thinking about your product. And it is not time bound. It is so generic that it will last for long. So that's one of the tips I'll give when you think about product name. Moving to target company, whenever you're designing your product, you need to make sure that, hey, what companies or partners or people I'm building this for. So you can list that out in the target companies framework area. Then you think about your MVP. Hey, I have this grand vision of making a very awesome PowerPoint service, but what is my first MVP going to look like so that I can go out and sell and get feedback? So you can write that in your MVP and release goals. Follow that by problem statement. So now I'm ready with my MVP. What are a few problem statements I'm going to start solving them around? And what is the value proposition I'm going to communicate through those? So these are the two important things to start even a product journey. So what we just did was we saw a very huge framework, and then we kind of started with how do you start with this framework in this. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to touch a little bit on how do you kind of go through some of these aspects of creating user stories, creating personas, right? Or just like how you even start this journey here. So the biggest thing is what a product manager do when it comes to an execution phase, assuming your business plan is fleshed out, you know the segment and the target area you want to go through from your previous slide, which we saw. Now it comes down to work of like actually defining detailed use cases. Now before defining a very detailed use cases, I go to what I call a persona building exercise. A lot of times I actually go in Googling to figure out this photo right here. So the photo right here, it's like I'll take a photo of my ideal customer. So to give you an example, if I'm building, say, a voice assistant device, I'll take a photo of somebody, a person living in an apartment. I'll try to put a name, age, what kind of, how many, like what's his role, what he's doing at home, what's his ideal day look like, right? So to give you an example, hey, I'm Aditya, I'm about 35 years old, working professional, whatnot, and at my home I get up around 7 o'clock, go through my normal morning routine, go to work, come back around 7 to 8 o'clock, and blah, blah, whatnot. And based on that, what could be my needs? And how would a voice assistant kind of solve those needs? So like, and this would help you go through multiple scenarios, right? So what I suggest doing is there are building 3 or 4 personas depending on your product. So if it's a B2C, business or consumer product, I would say make individual user as a persona. Go really deep into defining that human for yourself. I mean, a lot of times I even give a name to that person, like, hey, Patrick, who's doing this. So what is happening is you're sitting in a shoe of a customer, and you're feeling his pain, you're feeling his day, you're actually imagining him getting up and going out, right? And when you do that, you actually feel the need, what he would have related to your product. And that's when it is very easy to come up with these needs or a laundry list of needs. Follow that, if it's a B2B product, I'll do that for a vendor or partner. So think about an ideal target company or a budget target company. Create your own name, create their logo and what markets they are serving, and what could be their needs related to your product. So once you have done an external persona building, you do an internal persona building, especially if it is a two-sided platform, right? An internal persona building is about, hey, who are the people inside my company who are going to serve these guys? That's called an internal persona building. And how these internal personas are going to make sure that the external customers and their needs are satisfied. So we kind of start with a very huge laundry list of external customer or partner needs, and then internal stakeholders' needs and how they're going to serve it. Now, once you've created these lists and personas, it's just not possible to build everything, right? And so we will kind of move to this phase called persona selection phase, and then picking up the needs and activity phase, right? And then you can, and that's how you do prioritization. So the goal of this stage is to pick, say, top 5 personas. So as we talked about, hey, we could think about a middle-aged man, a young kid in the house, or a working professional, a girl in college, and you can go to multiple personas, right? Now, what I would say, pick your top 5 personas and start building around that. Now you would ask, hey, what kind of framework can we use to even pick these personas? So that's what I discuss next is create a benefit versus effort chart. Now, what's benefit versus effort chart? So a benefit could be defined in many, many different terms. One is, and this is again, should align to your corporate goals. So if you're creating an assistant, and your corporate goal is to create adoption, or a chatbot, and the corporate goal is to create adoption, your benefits section should be talking about number of people adopting this this chatbot. Now, when you put that adoption as a criteria, you would want to see what's the total addressable market. Hey, are there enough men in the age of 25 to 35 which I can get through my device? Would they be interested? So you kind of go through each of these personas and see, would I be able to get them to adopt to this? If I'm making a very funky looking a digital assistant, there's a high chance the folks in their 40s or 50s may not buy it, right? And so it's better to and that's when you start clearing out those personas out of your list. They go down the list, and the ones which relates to your product comes up the list. Now, there's another thing you could do when it comes to fleshing out, even among, say, you started with a list of 20 personas, you're down to 10. How do you flesh out 5? That's where the second thing comes in, effort. How much of an effort I would go through to make sure that I'm hitting these guys. Which one are easier to hit? Which one has high adoption but medium or low effort in it, right? So that's the effort section. And the effort can be defined based on your company or your team in terms of time, resources, money, and etc. So there could be multiple ways your effort can be defined. When you marry these two, the effort versus benefit on a 2x2 matrix, you would be able to see there are clear winners of personas which kind of pop up. And once those pop up, on the right side there's activities which you have kind of listed in previous section. Like, hey, what are the different activities we would perform to satisfy these personas? So that's a framework for first creating personas, creating their needs, and then in this, how do you filter out personas and how do you filter out their needs and decide on activities and roadmap for future. Follow. So moving on quickly, a lot of times, this is one of my favorite things to talk about, is we live in an era where a lot of things are given for free. And we know this, when a product is given for free, guess what? You are the product. What does that mean? Is when you're consuming a free product, you are essentially the product. So data related to you is the product. And a lot of companies like Google, Facebook sell our data to create a monetizable product in marketing, in terms of many other services, and that's the business model. And so having a data strategy around whatever you build, whether it be B2B or B2C product, is very, very important. So you need to figure out, you need to make sure that your data strategy is pretty solid across all the stack. And again, this is the IoT stack, but you can have your own stack of your software. So you want to make sure that you have a very solid strategy around it. Before and once you have the strategy, one thing you want to make sure is you are leveraging data security and aggregation in an accurate manner. So a lot of times, collecting data through a free service can be very exciting, and selling it out to different people can be very exciting. But my framework for launching a data-focused or data selling product is first make sure that you are really securely capturing the data. You're securely capturing and storing the data, and this data is aggregated in a very sensible manner in your systems. So whatever infrastructure you're using, this is a very important point. Second thing is compliance. We saw GDPR coming recently in EU. There are a lot of other compliance which your government puts out there. That's number one. But even without it, there are ethical standards around data sharing, which we saw how US elections were kind of manipulated through Facebook. And so one is not just your legal compliance put out by your local government or international or national government, but it is also about ethical journey which you can take when it comes to data capturing and sharing. So a product manager's duty is to make sure that he's kind of addressing all of that piece. And then the fun part is have a data strategy for monetization. We'll talk about this here. So now, monetization is a fun aspect, right? Everybody wants to talk about, hey, you gave me all this framework, you gave me all the different chops and tools to satisfy your customer. When do we talk about money? Because that's what my boss is asking, right? And how do we do it? So I'll talk about that in this area. So there are quite a few business models which you can think about, and I'll touch on 5 of them. A lot of times I've seen these being implemented straight up or a mix of them together to make a very sophisticated pricing model. Cost-plus pricing is a very simple pricing model where you take the cost. You're very good at doing your cost. You add a markup about 20% to 30% depending on the industry and the competitiveness of the market, and that's your model. This model, even though they sound simple and probably stupid, but it's a very effective model for a commoditized industry. For example, in retail, fruits and vegetables, where there's a lot less differentiator. This model works very perfectly because it is easily understood by different retail companies and different vendors across different education levels. So this is a very popular model still and one of the oldest models. Price skimming model. What is price skimming model? It is what I call the premium pricing model. This is majorly used by premium brands like Apple, where what they do is for a premium product they're introducing in the market, they would put price at a certain level where they're just getting the cream of the crop of the market. So the maximum price they can put to get a certain percentage of the society, especially their loyalists. They're not trying to get a huge market. So even today you would see Apple's phone or even laptops are between 10 to 15% of the market, and they're really happy about it. And so just not Apple, there are a lot of other premium devices or premium software services which keeps their pricing at a level where they get the premium customer and they serve those customers the best. This is good for companies which are of a smaller size, but they want to get out a best product, a really high quality product, and serve a small suite of customers. This is not ideal if you have big machinery, big factories. If you have smaller factories, smaller machineries, and you still want to make most money, price skimming is the way. Next is penetration pricing. Penetration pricing is literally the opposite of skimming, where you are making so less money off of your per unit, but then you're making your money off your volume. this is also done to undercut your competitors and kick them out of the market. You should only use this if you have some kind of operational benefit or an operational advantage over your customer, and you are sure that you can win in the market because you have sales channel and other marketing channels. Freemium pricing, what we just talked about, is essentially giving out the product for free. Google.com, a lot of other services, giving out the product for free. You make money off the data. Another way of premium pricing is, hey, I give you my app for free. You get to see the ad. I give you the luxury of using my app or service for a few months, and then I switch. So that's what I call a freemium, and then a value-based pricing or whatever pricing. So that's an example of merging two pricing as well. Now, value-based pricing is what I call the true customer-centric pricing, where you create a product and then you go out in the market to ask your customers, hey, what money do you want to pay for this? And very obviously, they would say $0, right? Like, nobody wants to pay money for services. But then, if you go seriously asking your user group, you would start seeing a fair market value, which we kind of talked about. And through those interviews, through those surveys, you would be able to find out value-based pricing. I go deeper into the details of this tomorrow in the workshop, so I'll leave it there based on the time we have. Moving on, product manager needs to kind of think about this business models, and then he needs to list out different ways of recurring revenue or one-time revenue, and marry that with the recurring cost and one-time cost. Keeping in mind that even that there are business models that, hey, you may have spent, you earn the revenue once, but then you may have recurring costs. So a lot of times I've seen through my consulting days that a lot of product managers have missed out on recurring costs, or they have just gotten their business model strong. And so a product which looks successful on the prima facie ends up being a money hugger for the company. So you really need to be really strong at this portfolio which you bring in terms of cost, recurring revenue, and one-time cost, right? So moving on. The technology implementation. So we talked about, hey, you do all this business model, you come up with this idea, you work with different teams, and then finally it comes to execution, right? Now, even at execution stage, product manager needs to take decision. Hey, I need to go out to the market in 6 months because I don't want to miss the holiday season, or my competition is coming into the market. I have, through my sources, through my friends, I got to know in the industry that, hey, they're going to hit the market very fast. That's when a product manager needs to make a decision, build versus buy. Money. It could be money, it could be time, it could be competition. There are many different reasons and ways that you'll be challenged in the market, and you need to make that decision, what you're going to do. Are you going to build it, or are you going to buy it? And it's not 0 or 1 decision. You can build or buy different things in your product journey, right? That's why I told, given our previous IoTs, going back to our IoT stack again, device hardware, software, communication, cloud platform, cloud application. These are the 5 different areas we needed to design to make our IoT app. Hey, am I going to make all of them? Or I'm going to make 2 of them and I'm going to buy 3 of them? Right? So these are the decisions a smart PM needs to take. He doesn't have to necessarily design each of them, but he needs to have an idea for pros and cons of build versus buy. Again, at the same time, in these stacks, he needs to understand security challenges and have a mitigation plan for them. And again, local laws, regulations, and make sure this product takes care of it. Finally, now moving on to one of the last things I want to talk before we open up for question is metrics to measure success. So with the products, the way we are innovating on a daily basis and new things, it is very important to measure what you build was actually successful or not. And that question you get every day. With innovative products, we have innovative challenges of even measuring whether they are successful or not. So I'll start by saying, for measuring a product success, you have to build out a metric dashboard, which is a healthy mix of your traditional metric and innovation metrics. Why do we need a traditional metric when it's an innovative product? Because traditional metrics like revenue, adoption, usability, number of units sold, they still hold true no matter what you do in the market, right? You have to make money out of your product, some way or the other. So no matter what product you build, it needs to tie in some of the traditional metrics. And that's how the businesses are run in the society. So you need traditional metrics. Innovative metric is, hey, there are things which are innovative, and if the innovation is measured on past metrics or past standards, then you're doing very big injustice to your future innovation. Because innovation, guess like one of the things which I say, innovation doesn't have a past data, right? And that's why it's innovation. It wouldn't be innovation if it had the data to support it already. And so if it doesn't have data, it doesn't have metrics. So how do you kind of think about innovative metrics? I would say it is very personal to the product you're building. If you think about cost per click, that Google came out once. They were trying to make business sense of Google.com when they were selling this. Number of likes, that came up from Facebook when they introduced the thumbs up. Similarly, impressions per page, data transfer per hour per device. These came out as the infrastructure pieces, infrastructure companies, cloud companies started growing in. Impressions came out when social media and other companies started growing in. So this is how you kind of think about measuring the success of your platform. And it is very necessary to decide on these pre-launch and make sure you have infrastructure built to capture these metrics pre-launch so that you can capture how the launch day was, how was a week, how was a month, and then you keep repeating it to make sure you're staying on track or you're improving. And that's how you kind of measure a successful product. Now that said, I think that's the presentation for me. I have 5 minutes. I'll take a few questions. Okay.
Hi there. So does much of your framework, do you feel, apply to B2B software companies as well? And if not, what areas would you modify in terms of that thought process?
No, so most of this framework, even though, so what I did was I used a very complex area, but all this framework applied to B2B companies as well. In fact, I come from a B2B background, and a lot of times that gets boring if you bring examples from that. But then this does apply a lot to B2B. That's why I always kept partners and vendors and things like that in the discussion to make it relevant across the board.
Any more questions? But you can be around today, right? So people can come and hassle you with coffee and conversations.
Yeah, so I'm here today and tomorrow, so I'm more than happy to talk to anybody and take in their questions. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you
very much. Thank you.